Welcome to Secrets Behind the Stars, the space where stories breathe beyond the headlines. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe, tap join to support our community, and leave a comment to share what you feel. Your voice guides the tales we bring to light. It was the kind of moment that can hush an entire studio. Under the glare of carefully set lights, with the cameras rolling and the room hovering between curiosity and respect, actor Barış chose to say what he had not said for years. He spoke softly at first, then with a steadier tone that seemed to settle into the stillness around him. He finally confronted the question that has pursued him in interviews, on sets, across fan accounts and press rooms: how real, truly real, was the love between him and Elsen Sangu, the co-star who shared his scenes, and something far more private. He didn't hide behind rehearsed charm or a deflection. With a visible catch in his breath, Barış admitted that the tenderness millions witnessed wasn't manufactured. The words, careful but unvarnished, the emotions on that set weren't just craft, they came from a place he could no longer call pretend. The studio changed with that sentence. It felt like an exhale after a long-held silence, not engineered for buzz, but released because the weight of it had grown too heavy to carry alone. Then he described the beginning, the kind that arrives quietly, without fanfare, and only later reveals how deep its roots have grown. Affection didn't rush in with fireworks. It strengthened through endless hours in rehearsal rooms, through table reads that stretched late, through shared glances when a scene unexpectedly cracked open something honest. He tried to keep lines straight, he admitted. He wanted to be responsible, to protect the project, to make sure nothing interfered with the work. But there was something about Elsen, an energy that lights up a space without demanding it, a laugh that breaks tension, a discipline that speaks to her theater bones, that drew him in. Even surrounded by a crew, he would sometimes realize he was watching only her. As he talked, memory seemed to find his posture, softening his shoulders and sharpening his eyes. There was a particular nostalgia in his voice, the kind that appears when gratitude and longing face each other. What the audience interpreted as chemistry was not a trick of angles or writing. It grew from a closeness that neither of them planned, a connection that began within the boundaries of characters and ended up redefining those boundaries. Every gaze, every touch, every word between them during a take, he said, refused to die the moment cut was called. Those scenes left a hum that trailed them, some days a whisper, other days a storm. The host asked the question everyone wanted to hear. When did Elsen sense what he was trying so carefully to hide? Barış smiled, the kind of small, involuntary smile that carries a story in it, and paused just long enough to make the room lean forward. She knew, he said, before he dared to admit it to himself. He had thought he was being discreet, but she could read his truth across a room. He remembers a specific scene, one written simply, where their eyes met and something shifted out of rehearsal and into life. There was no grand declaration. Just a shared look that rearranged everything quietly and decisively. He didn't stop at romance. He spoke of admiration, the kind that roots love in respect. Elsen, he said, lives at the intersection of strength and delicacy. She can lead a scene with a certainty that steadies everyone around her, yet there is a softness that slips through between lines, an honesty that invites care rather than demands it. What began as two colleagues pulling each other through the long, exhausting motions of production changed into a companionship that neither had planned to find. There was tenderness in the telling, the sort that rarely survives the glare of celebrity. Speculation had followed them for years. Was it marketing? A contract in disguise? A fleeting storyline that spilled off the set for attention? His voice cut through all of it. Not a stunt, not a plan. Just a real affection that arrived uninvited and refused to leave politely. And when he said it, fans could almost hear the past rearranging itself. Within minutes, the confession rippled across the digital world. Timelines filled, names trended, and old behind-the-scenes moments resurfaced with new captions. Edits of their laughter between takes, the way his hand hovered just a little longer than necessary, the instinctive glance he offered her after a difficult scene, they were shared again with comments like, "So it was true all along," and, "Their eyes gave it away, we just didn't want to jinx it." Barış then reflected on how the story between them found its breath inside the grind of television production. Long nights that blur into early mornings, emotional scenes that leave a residue on the skin, the strange ache of living parallel lives, character and self, at the same time. When two people spend that kind of time together, walking in and out of love on cue, the heart doesn't always understand the choreography. It starts to feel. It stops separating what belongs to a script and what belongs to the soul. By now his eyes glistened, not with spectacle but with the fragile relief that arrives when truth finally finds air. He admitted that their connection didn't turn off with the lights. It went home with them, quiet but insistent, a presence that lingered after the makeup disappeared and the costumes were replaced by worn-in clothes and silence. They made a pact to be honest with each other. That promise, he said, is what made it real. There were difficult days. There always are when two people are trying to hold something precious in a world that wants to make it public property. They argued, they misunderstood, they retreated and returned. But they didn't doubt the feeling itself. In an age where relationships are curated for feeds, his words felt sturdier than a headline. Later, when the host asked whether the depth of those emotions frightened him, he took a breath as if measuring an old fear. At first, yes. It is disorienting to deliver love for the camera while love is unfolding behind it. But Elsen made the uncertainty feel like a path rather than a trap. She gave him room to be brave without pretending not to be scared. She pushed him toward honesty with a gentleness that disarmed him. She made space for the truth and then defended it. He said she made him a better actor because she made him a braver person. Every emotional beat he offered on screen was grounded in something lived, not just learned. Maybe that's why the series took hold of people the way it did. Viewers felt something they couldn't quite name, a recognition that went beyond entertainment. They weren't just watching characters fall in love. They were witnessing two people speaking in a language that didn't require translation, a language their hearts already understood. As the conversation deepened, Barış addressed the line that divides public and private, a boundary so often redrawn without his consent. It's never simple when your private heartbeat becomes topic, opinion, and trend. But he has learned, he said, that the only thing that survives the cycle is what's genuine. He can't pretend for the sake of an image that doesn't belong to him. Not anymore. His candor echoed beyond fan circles. Messages poured in from people who don't comment often, who say they are tired of performance and hungry for unscripted courage. They thanked him for claiming his truth in an industry where illusion often wears the crown. And Secrets Behind the Stars asks you, watching now, do you believe love can outlast the spotlight? Have you ever seen a connection so undeniable that it erased the borders between art and life? Tell us what you think below. And while you're at it, hit like, subscribe, and consider joining to keep this space thriving. Your support helps us keep stories like this alive. His confession has already changed the way many talk about on-set romance. It reminded people that behind the flash of cameras and curated posts, something human can steal a scene and refuse to return it. Two people can collide by accident and discover the script is not the only author at work. Fate, timing, and a stubborn tenderness were writing, too. Clips from the program have traveled everywhere. Translations multiply, views climb, and conversations reopen with fresh softness. Fans who once dismissed the idea as fantasy now are calling it the love that survived the stage. In their edits and threads, a different refrain repeats, maybe what we felt through the screen was real because the feeling that created it was real. One fan wrote, it started as a scene and stayed as a heartbeat. Another said, now I know why the show felt different, they weren't only acting, they were living. The simplicity of his confession cut through cynicism. In a landscape of calculated vulnerability, this one trembled. It had edges, and the edges made it believable. As the interview drew toward its end, the host asked him to look back one last time. Barış's eyes warmed. When he revisits those days, he doesn't see a timeline of episodes and ratings. He remembers the tiny details, the way she would shake out her hands before a heavy scene, the quiet joke she whispered to break a knot of tension, the relief of finding her face at the end of a long tracking shot. That work was more than a series, it opened a door neither of them expected. It let something true into the room. In that final moment, the audience watching understood the simple truth that hovered above all of this. Sometimes fiction doesn't just imitate life, it lends life a vocabulary it didn't have before. Through the lines they delivered, their real hearts spoke. And that, perhaps, is why the story feels timeless. It's not only about Barış or Elsen. It's about the risk of feeling without armor while the world is watching. It's about the courage to defend something tender in a place that loves to demand proof. It's a reminder that beneath every angle and headline there might be an unguarded truth waiting patiently, stubbornly, to be told. Thank you for spending time with us here on Secrets Behind the Stars, where we search past the surface for the pulse that makes these stories live. Don't forget to subscribe, tap join if you want to support this community, and tell us which story you want next. Until we meet again, keep feeling, keep believing, and keep looking for the secrets behind the stars.